All right, well, we're back from that last break right there, and so we're gonna go ahead and hop into our little section about our bigs for this last little part to wrap up our series and the next big thing. So, Davis, go ahead and kick us off. Who's your first big?
Yeah, so my first big is going to be Wendell Carter, and kind of alongside the same train of thought that I had with Kobe White. I think a lot of it comes down to the system and scheme that Jim Boylan was producing, as opposed to what Billy Donovan is able to unlock with these young guys. And Wendell Carter, so far in his first two seasons, hasn't had a bad career, right? So he's averaged 10 points and 11 points, but I still think there's another dimension to his game. I mean, especially if you looked at some of his college film and how dominant he was down low. Um, I'm not saying that, he needs to be that absolutely dominant guy down low, but I think they will be opening up and spacing the court a lot more than they were with Jim Boylan's system. And a lot of that comes down to also a guy we could have talked about on the wings, but Laurie Markkinen. I think he's going to, hopefully take another leap to his game and kind of go back to where he was 2 seasons ago and, be more efficient from three. And with Zach LaVine, Kobe White continuing to make improvements, whoever they pick in the fourth overall slot, I don't know. I think this team is poised to have some good perimeter threats. And so, as we know, with teams that have good perimeter threats, that opens up some opportunities for some boards and putbacks. And Wendell Carter is one of the best at doing that when he's on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was gonna just say in response to you kind of just said there at the end, I think for him, it's having a new coach, a much, 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 much better coach, but having those other players on that team that can open up the floor for him. I think he just needs to take advantage of that opportunity. That he's been given as the down low threat down there. I mean, he's being able to play with Lowry Markkinen, who's it's rare. And, it's a little bit more common in the NBA now, but it's rare to have big men that can shoot. And I think having that on your team allows him to be able to play down low. And so I think he really needs to take advantage of that. But my next big, I have DeAndre Ayton. And so without going too much into it, just because I kind of also talked about it a little bit when we were discussing Kelly Oubre as your wing, I just I just think he's going to be the guy taking that leap. It's why I don't think Kelly Oubre will. It's because I think Aiton's going to be the one be given all these opportunities for next season. I think for him, he's become a monster rebounder in the NBA. I mean, absolute monster. And so he's just so aggressive and strong and sturdy. And I think for him, it's just going to be
Very
becoming more
sturdy
efficient from
player.
three. He's a
He's a great
sturdy player.
sturdy.
I think for him in the next season, it's just going to be becoming a better 3-point shooter. I think that's what's really going to unlock his game and boost those scoring numbers up. I really want to see him jump into that 21, 22-point category in the next season. This last season, he shot 23% from three. That's terrible. I don't need him to be amazing, but I'd like to see that number be more around like 30 to 32. I think next season that's definitely reasonable for him, and I think that would really help out his game. And he's a good free throw shooter for a big man. He shoots about 74, 75%, which is really solid for a big man. And so next season, just kind of want to see him improve that 3-point shot. I think that's what's going to boost those numbers.
I mean, yeah, I'll agree with you in one aspect, and that's whenever I watch DeAndre Ayton.
He's so sturdy.
No, no, hear me out. He reminds me of a big, tall oak tree.
Okay.
Sturdy. No,
Sturdy,
no, yeah, I
sturdy,
was definitely going
sturdy.
with the sturdy aspect, but you kind of stole my vibe there. I don't know. Like the only reason I don't think necessarily Aiden is going to be transitioning into, and I guess we just fundamentally disagree because I have Kelly Oubre kind of making that next big leap, and you have Aiden. So we'll just kind of see how the season progresses. But the reason why I don't think Aiden is going to be, transitioning into more of a 3-point, shot creator, I guess you could say, is that he's so effective down low on the defensive boards. And so if they're taking him out and trying to push him onto the perimeter a little bit more, that just doesn't make a lot of sense because he's not able to get those offensive putbacks and kind of dominate down low as much as kind of his tool set and his sturdiness might, make you want to think. And so I don't know if that's like a smart play to try to be bringing him out for more threes. I think, yes, I know that the modern NBA is transitioning towards bigs that, can space the floor a little bit more and knock down a three every now and then. But at the same time, we've seen guys like, Andre Drummond is, one extreme case that, is just a very, very good rebounder and guy that dominates down low, will give you a double-double every single night. But, you don't need him to be knocking down threes. And I don't think the Suns need him knocking down threes, especially with Devin Booker and Kelly Oubre. Once Kelly Oubre starts shooting 100% from three, so I mean,
Tsunami
we'll see.
Poppy.
We'll see. Yeah, it's the Tsunami Poppy great transition, by the way, because I'm going to go into my next player, which I'm just going to give you the nickname, right? Because Tsunami Poppy was Kelly Oubre's nickname, so I'm going to give you the nickname. Guess the player, the Blockness Monster.
Is it Mitchell Robinson?
Yeah, okay. That's also boof though, because I did like pre-screen my bigs so we made sure that we didn't have the same ones.
I
But
had a
yeah, it
50-50
is.
chance there
It
though.
was, it was. So yeah, I'll go into Mitchell Robinson, and we kind of touched on it with RJ Barrett. But talk about another guy that, kind of along the lines of what I think of DeAndre Ayton and how he doesn't need to be shooting threes. Mitchell Robinson, also a guy that has never been a 3-point shooter. I don't think he's ever had a 3-point attempt. He has not ever once in his life. Good for him. That's
Maybe we
that's
can get him
rare
like a
these
half
days.
court heave sometime next season.
That'd be pretty sweet. But I mean, talk about it like a true rim runner in this league. Like Mitchell Robinson is textbook in this regards. He's one of the most athletic and like dominating players in some aspects, if you could consider him dominant. Um, that I feel like we have seen for such a young guy. He has so much potential. And I mean, I think if he just kind of stays the course, and I do think coaching change, yeah. I'm not huge into Tom Thibodeau, but at the same time, he did kind of help develop Karl Anthony Towns into, the big that he is today. And so maybe he can unleash some of that, player development onto Mitchell Robinson and kind of get him to, transition into the most elite big man this era has ever seen, better than Zion Williams.
That's blasphemous.
That's not
But no,
blasphemous.
I think that's definitely a good pick. I think the New York Knicks are poised to improve their younger players, and so I think Mitchell Robinson reminds me a lot of DeAndre Jordan, and I think he's a really good fit alongside RJ Barrett. I actually really love them playing together, and so I do agree. I think that's a really good point. Just seeing him improve in the next season, because he's someone that should, without a doubt, be a block leader for many years in the NBA. I'm gonna go ahead and go into my second big on my list. So I have Jaren Jackson Jr. And the reason why I have him is because offensively, I mean, he is a great shooter for a big man. And what I'd really like to see from him in the next season is just improving his ability as more of a shot creator. A lot of times it's a lot of just catch and shoot threes from John Morant. I'd like to see him be a little bit better of a shot creator, but without a doubt, I think for him it's defense. I mean, he needs to be better defensively. He's horrendous defensively, and I'd really like to see him become not just serviceable, but a very, very good defender. He has the skill set and the tools. He's so quick and athletic, which is why he's so good offensively at times. And so that's what I'd like to see from him, is just improving on that defensive end, limiting the fouls. I believe he fouled out the most in the NBA, or he had the most fouls or something like that this last season. I could be wrong on that, but I know he had a lot of fouls, and I'd like to see him just become a lot more disciplined on that end, improve defensively, make better decisions, and I think that's what's gonna unlock his game and improve him in the next year.
I don't know how to check that stat, but
I'll look it up.
I think Mitchell Robinson actually. I know that we just went on from Mitchell Robinson, but I think he fouled out of games more than anyone else, which is another thing that Mitchell Robinson just needs to work on. And I think, a good, solid young coach can, help get a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? Not, I don't know, just like essentially make sure that he's not fouling and give him a little bit more. God, I can't think of the word. It's going to bother me. Whatever. But going on to my last player, I'm going to go with Marvin Bagley out of Sacramento. Yes, I understand. He didn't play a full last season. But at the same time, that's the reason he's on my list. And because, I mean, his rookie campaign, right, he averaged, 14 points, probably 10 rebounds as well. I shouldn't say probably. I have this right in front of me, so I should look. Yeah, he averaged 14 and a half points a game and 7.5 rebounds per game. But at the same time, he was not healthy last season, right? As we all know, and I've already said. So last season, I was expecting him to make a big jump and kind of continue on that progress, but we didn't get to see that due to the injury concerns. And his even it really upset me because he was also on my fantasy basketball team because I'm a
Oof.
very strong believer in him. But whenever he came back, he would just play 2 games and then just get injured again. And I'm like, this is boof. It just kept happening over and over and over again. But um, I don't know. He shot very well from 3 for a big man. His rookie year, he shot shouldn't say very good, 31%. But for a big guy, I mean
Solid, solid.
that's a good baseline to start out your career, I'd say. And so, he's had time off. He's probably been, you know, I'd say when you're injured in the league, quote me if I'm wrong, because I'm not in the NBA. But I feel like when you're trying to ease back a big man into the league, you're not just, giving them, full scrimmage drills and having these uh big aggressive type of body on body contact, full contact. You're just kind of, okay, work on your shot, work on your touch around the glass, those types of things. And so I feel like if he came out next season shooting like Karl Anthony Towns esque from 3, early
Okay.
on in Cat's career, I would not be surprised. And I don't know. He's just a guy that has a big motor, very, very high drive, and very athletic. And I think if Luke Walton wants to continue being the coach of this team, he's going to need to, let this team push the tempo a little bit more. Let the young guys run down the court, and play with that aggression that they have in their system. So, yeah.
Yeah, so one thing I want to say before I talk about Marvin Bagley, Jaren Jackson Jr. had 4.1 fouls per game, and that was in 28 minutes of play. So, pretty terrible. But for Marvin Bagley, I agree. I think he's definitely, for
You want
him,
to?
it's,
Oh,
oh, go ahead.
I just looked up a stat for Mitchell Robinson's fouls per game per 36, 6.7.
We'll have to do the math on that. Because, I mean, he's got 4.1 and 20, so I don't know what it's going to, well, we might have to do the math on that sometime. But for Marvin Bagley, I think for him at the end of the day, it's health. If he can go out there and stay healthy for an entire season, he could be a fan. He could honestly break into like a top 3, top 5 big man in the league. He's got the talent to do. He's got the skill set, and so that's what he needs to do. Is he needs to stay healthy. And so for me, it's all the off court stuff. It's going to the gym, staying in shape, eating healthy, all that thing. It's not. I don't think there's anything on court, in my opinion, he needs to like directly improve on. I mean, obviously, like all players need to improve their game, but for him, it's those health concerns that I have, and that's the reason why I didn't have him on my list, because I'm still worried and concerned that I don't know if he can stay healthy for a whole season. But if he can do that, without
If
a
Mike,
doubt, he's
if
poised to make a
Michael
big
Porter
jump.
Jr. can play a full season, I'm convinced anyone can.
I never got on, without going too much on a tangent, I never got on board with the Michael Porter Jr. can't stay healthy train. He had one injury from high school that he just played through for a couple of years and ended up having to get surgery. That's the way I saw it. And I understand how other people saw it, but that's how
And
I
all
looked at it.
the NBA execs besides the Nuggets also saw it. I mean, he was a top 3 potential pick,
Well,
and
it's
he
a
ended
back
up slipping to
injury, which is
14.
dangerous.
Yeah.
But it was a long-term injury because he never went and got it treated. And so, which obviously is a poor decision on his part. Um, So I mean that's the only, but that's where I stand on that. But I'm gonna go ahead and rattle off my last big. So I have Kristaps Porzingis, and for
Nice.
him, it's the fact that he has a full season under his belt post ACL injury, and I mean he averaged 20 points per game. But again, his big issue, not surprising, was efficiency coming back from that injury. And I mean, down the stretch into the playoffs, near the end of the season, a lot of times when they play without Luka, he was incredible. I mean, it was the people saying that he could win an MVP when he was still in New York at some point. Like that was the type of play he was doing. I mean, an absolute monster offensively, goes to the defensive end, blocking people right and left. And so, I mean, honestly, for him, it's consistency in the next season. If he can be a consistent alongside Luka, which I fully expect him to do, I mean, he's going to plug himself into a top 3 big man in the league. I think he can really. I think it's going to be tough to have that conversation of saying, are Joel Embiid, Jokic, and Anthony Davis all better than him? I think he can go into that conversation next season if he can become much more efficient because, I mean, defensively, he's up there with them, and offensively, he is. It's just be consistent. And that's what I want him to do next season.
I'm just imagining a world in which Kristaps Porzingis puts 50 pounds of muscle on over the summer.
That's
And just how
dangerous.
scary he would be. I mean, I don't know. Some guys just don't need that, and we don't ever see that. But he's a guy that if he was like a lot stronger, I'd be very scared for how dominant he would be in
Oh,
this.
yeah.
But
Without a doubt. So,
I like it.
yeah, so that wraps up our little series today that we did for the next big thing. So thanks for all listening out today, and peace.
Peace.